In today's world, we are encouraged to share every detail of our lives, our triumphs, struggles, dreams, and even our fears. But what if I told you that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is keep certain parts of your life private? In fact, some of the most successful and resilient people throughout history have understood this principle, and it's something the Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, mastered centuries ago. Today, we're going to explore the 7 things you should never share with anyone, according to Stoic wisdom. It's not about hiding who you are, but about protecting your peace, strengthening your inner world, and maintaining control over your life. From your fears and failures to your romantic life and big plans, there's a lot of power in choosing silence. Stick around, because these timeless insights could completely change the way you approach your life, relationships, and even your personal growth. So, let's dive into how keeping certain things private can actually make you stronger, more resilient, and untouchable in a world that constantly demands you to share. We all have fears, some big, some small, some profound, and some seemingly insignificant. These fears are a part of our internal world, but sharing them too openly can weaken us. When you reveal your deepest fears, you essentially hand someone else the keys to your emotional fortress. The moment someone else knows what makes you tremble, they can unintentionally or intentionally use that knowledge against you. That's why the Stoics believed in keeping your fears to yourself. Story. I remember a time when I was struggling with self-doubt before a big presentation. I felt the weight of the task ahead of me, and in a moment of vulnerability, I shared my concerns with a colleague. They offered comforting words, but later, I could feel the pity in their eyes. Instead of feeling empowered, I felt exposed. It was a lesson I'll never forget. My fear, once shared, wasn't just mine anymore. It became something that others could see, sympathize with, and even use to diminish my confidence. Since then, I've learned the power of confronting fear privately, using it as fuel for my personal growth, rather than a burden to be shared. The Stoic approach teaches that confronting your fears head-on, in silence, allows you to maintain control over them. It's a way of transforming fear into a source of strength. You gain control over your narrative when you keep your struggles close to the chest, not to suppress them, but to understand them, work through them, and ultimately emerge stronger. We all face setbacks, whether it's a missed opportunity, a failed project, or a personal loss. Failure is a part of the human experience. The temptation to share your failures openly can be strong. It feels good to vent, to release the pressure. However, the more you talk about your past failures, the more you risk being defined by them. Example. A few years ago, I had a major failure at work that involved a project I poured months of effort into. At the time, I wanted to talk about it, explain it, and vent about how unfair it all felt. But I noticed something strange happening. I started to see myself through the lens of that failure, and more importantly, others started to see me that way too. The more I shared, the more people associated me with that failed project, rather than with my other successes and strengths. The Stoic perspective is clear. Don't dwell on past failures. When you share them, you risk reinforcing them in your mind and in the minds of others. Instead, the Stoics urge us to focus on the present and future, on the lessons learned and the steps forward. By internalizing the lessons from failure and keeping them private, you retain control over your growth and the way others perceive you. Money is one of the most personal aspects of life, and whether you're doing well or struggling, discussing it openly often leads to unintended consequences. Sharing financial details can invite envy or pity, neither of which serves you well. Stoicism teaches us that our worth is not tied to external circumstances, like wealth or lack thereof. Story. I've had conversations with friends about money before. One time, a friend shared their financial success with me. While I was happy for them, I couldn't help but feel a pang of inadequacy, even though I knew better than to let envy take root. On the flip side, when I've struggled with money, opening up to others often led to pity or unsolicited advice, which only made me feel more vulnerable. The Stoics believed that your self-worth should be rooted in your character, not your financial status. By keeping financial matters private, you protect your peace and your relationships from the pressures that come with money. Marcus Aurelius, one of the wealthiest men in history, rarely mentioned wealth in his personal writings. Instead, he focused on his duties, his values, and his commitment to virtue. He understood that true wealth isn't measured by a bank balance, it's measured by how we live and what we contribute. By keeping money matters private, you avoid the distractions and judgments that come with discussing finances openly. We've all been there, feeling overwhelmed and wanting to share our struggles to seek comfort or validation. However, airing your personal struggles too frequently can weaken your resolve and make you dependent on others for reassurance. The Stoics believed that true strength comes from within, from your ability to face challenges without relying on others for constant validation. Example: I used to share every little personal struggle with close friends, hoping for comfort, but I realized that the more I did so, the more I felt like I was defining myself by my difficulties rather than my strengths. Instead of feeling empowered, I started to feel like a person always in need of fixing. The Stoic approach is to confront challenges internally, not relying on others to carry your burdens. It's about building resilience through self-reflection and action, not through external support. By keeping personal struggles private, you allow yourself to process and solve them in your own way, without the unnecessary influence of others' opinions or judgments. In the age of social media, there's often pressure to share every detail of your romantic life, from first dates to anniversaries. While it's tempting to broadcast your relationship to the world, the Stoics would advise you to keep it private. Your romantic life should remain sacred, protected from external opinions and influences. Story: I've seen couples who post every milestone of their relationship online, from small gestures to major events. Initially, it seems harmless, but over time, I noticed the strain it caused. People began offering unsolicited advice, making judgments, or comparing their relationship to others. Suddenly, what should have been a private bond between two people became a public spectacle. By keeping your romantic life private, you safeguard the intimacy and connection between you and your partner, allowing it to grow without the pressures of external validation or criticism. In a world that's becoming more polarized by the day, sharing your political views can lead to unnecessary conflict. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, and often politics is something that's better left private. By keeping your political beliefs to yourself, you protect your relationships and your peace of mind. Example: I've seen friends and colleagues get caught in heated political debates that led to strained relationships, whether in casual conversations or on social media. These discussions often did more harm than good, creating division rather than understanding. The Stoic approach is to avoid getting swept up in external chaos. Instead of engaging in arguments, focus on what you can control: your actions, your character, and how you live your values. This allows you to maintain peace and avoid unnecessary conflict. Finally, when you have a big idea, a personal goal, or a project you're working on, it's often best to keep it to yourself until it's fully realized. Sharing your plans too early can expose them to external pressures and unnecessary distractions. Story: I once shared a new business idea with a friend who immediately began offering all sorts of advice and opinions. While they meant well, their input caused me to second-guess myself. Instead of feeling confident in my vision, I became overwhelmed with the thoughts and expectations of others. The Stoic approach is to keep your plans private, allowing yourself the space to make decisions based on your own values and goals, free from outside influence. And there you have it, 7 things you should never share with anyone. By keeping certain parts of your life private, you protect your inner peace, maintain control over your narrative, and ensure that your journey is driven by your own choices, not external influences. It's about finding strength in silence and making sure that your true power remains untapped by the judgments or opinions of others. If this resonates with you, don't stop here. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and join us for the next video, where we'll continue exploring how Stoic principles can help you live with clarity, purpose, and unshakable strength. Until then, remember, sometimes the best way to navigate life's challenges is with quiet confidence and the wisdom to keep certain things to yourself. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, and keep moving forward.